Good morning, Acharya.
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya, everybody. Good morning.
Om Tat Sat.
Okay, so in the last class, we had completed Anuvaka number 3. So we should be going on to Anuvaka number 4. And I will request Rituji to please chant the Anuvaka 4 in total.
Om Yato Vacho Nivartante Apraapya Manasa Saha Anandam Brahmano Vidvan Na Bibheti Kadachaneti Tasyaisha Eva Sharira Atma Yah Purvasya Tasmadva Etasmān Manomayat Anyontara Atma Vijñānamayah Tenaisha Purnaha Sava Esha Purusha Vidha Eva Tasya Purusha Vidhatam Anvayam Purusha Vidhaha Tasya Shraddhaiva Shiraha Ritan Dakshinah Pakshaha Satyamuttarah Pakshaha Yoga Atma Mahah Puchham Pratishtha Tadapyesha Shloko Bhavati.
Thank you very much. So in the mantra number 3, the third Anuvaka also, the last words were Tadepa Shloka Tadepa Tadapi Yesha Sloko Bhavati. So in this regard, Tadapi, in this regard, Yesha Sloko Bhavati, there is a Rig mantra. And that Rig mantra is now being quoted. That Rig mantra is where the iti is there. It ends there. So yato vacho nivartante aprapsya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidvan na bibeti kadachana iti. That much is the Rig mantra. So there are some commentators who say that this can be interpreted, the Brahman, Brahmano, Brahman can be interpreted as Hiranyagarbha, Saguna Brahman. Or they say you can also take it as Nirguna Brahman because of the words Yato Vacho Nivartante.
To do with digestion in total. So, for example, like Brahma.
I'm noting all because somebody's mic is open. Okay, so Yato Vacho Nivartante because of those words, which basically means from where, Yataha, from where, Vachaha, words, Nivartante, return. Because of those words, saying that from where words return, unfulfilled basically, without fulfilling their object. And therefore, they are referring to a Nirguna Brahman who is beyond words, who cannot be described. So that is, commentators say it can be either. Some commentators say it can be Saguna Brahman, Hiranyagarbha. Some commentators say because of the Yato Vacho Nivartante, you have to take it as Nirguna Brahman. But contextually, if you look, at the end of every Rig mantra so far, at the end of every Anuvaka so far, what is the word? It says Tadapi Esha Sloko Bhavat. Right? So it's talking about the kosha. And all the mantras we have seen so far, they have been referring to koshas. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Samashti Annamaya, Samashti Pranamaya, Samashti Manomaya. And because of the reference to Samashti Annamaya, Samashti Pranamaya, Samashti Manomaya, it's probably better to take the first interpretation as Saguna Brahma, right? So we will take that as Saguna Brahma. So now if you look at the Moolam, Yato Vasho Nivartante, from where the words return without fulfilling the objective, which means without being able to describe that Brahman, the words return. Not only that, aprapya manasa saha. The mind has also not been able to conceive of this Brahman. Right. So what is being said is that creation in its totality, samashti, saguna Brahman, hiranyagarbha, samashti Ishvara cannot be accessed by manasa. So manasa is the mind, which is the vyashti mind. So the micro mind will not be able to fully understand the totality of Saguna Ishvara. That's what is being said over here. And Hiranyagarbha is also an embodiment of the highest Brahmananda, which is called Hiranyagarbhananda also. And remember that this is not Atmananda, this is Saguna Ananda, highest worldly Ananda. So the highest Ananda that you can get in this relative universe, in the Vyavaharika Prapancha, that is available as Hiranyagarbha Ananda. Okay. That is Saguna Ananda, very much experiential Ananda. And therefore, the Samashti mind, the macro mind, Hiranyagarbha, has to be invoked where? In the Manomaya Kosha, Vyashti Manomaya Kosha, in the micro Manomaya Kosha. That is what is being said over here. What is the benefit? Na bibheti kadachana iti. The benefit is that he will have no fear at all. This is the sakama benefit, the worldly benefit of doing this upasana. What is the nishkama benefit? We all know. Chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata, chitta vishalata. So chitta shuddhi is purity of mind. Chitta ekagrata is the my ability of the mind to focus on one thing. Ekagrata, able to grasp one thing. And chitta vishalata is the ability of the mind to grasp very large, infinite things. And as the mind is able to grasp more and more larger things, as it goes towards being able to understand huge things, infinite things, it is said to become more and more subtle. Sukshmatvam is there. Okay, with this, the Rig mantra is over because Nabhiveti Kadachana Iti. The Iti is the full stop indicating the mantra is over. Then, then the mantra goes on to say, Tasyesha eva sharira atma yaha purvasya. So, tasyesha, that manomaya atma, eva sharira atma, is also called the sharira atma. The sharira atma is basically the one obtaining inside the body. So, dehi, as we know from Bhagavad Gita. And why is manomaya called dehi? Where is the manomaya residing? If you see, if you understand all the discussions we have had so far, where has Manomaya been poured into? Manomaya Atma, this remember. So that Atma has been poured into what and what shape has it now got?
It has been poured into the Pranamaya, and that is into the Annamaya. So it has taken the shape of the Annamaya.
It has taken the shape of the Annamaya. So this Manomaya Atma, remember, just like the Pranamaya Atma, also has the shape of the Annamaya body. And Shankaracharya writes in his commentary that you have to understand that this Manomaya is now the inner Atma of the Pranamaya. We talked earlier about it. We said in that Pranamaya, there's something inner to that. What is inner? Inner to Pranamaya is Mano. Right? The Manomaya topic is now over. And therefore, we have to enter into the Vijnanamaya topic. So it says, Tasmadva etasmat manomayat अन्योनंतर आत्मा विज्ञानमयः तेनैष पूर्णः. Right? So look at the words why. Why means where is that why? Tasmat va. When you break it up, tasmat why. Tasmat why. Therefore, indeed, anyontara atma vijnanamayah. This is the same explanation as before, but I will just repeat because we are 1 week down the line. He says, really speaking, why? In fact, really speaking, anyaha, this atma, there is a atma which is different from the manomaya, right? Because manomaya discussion is now over. So we are entering the next layer, the next inner layer, which is vijnanamaya. Remember now, because you are entering vijnanamaya, you are saying vijnanamaya is atma. Therefore, you have relegated manomaya to the level of kosha. So now we have three koshas: annamaya, pranamaya, manomaya. Kosha means anat. Therefore, three anatmas we have relegated into. Now we're looking at Vijnanamaya as the Atma. And therefore he says, why in fact, Anya Antara Atma. Inner to this Manomaya Kosha, there is a Atma, which is called Vijnanamaya. So really speaking, this Atma is Anyaha, different from Manomaya, and Antaraha, inner to Manomaya. So it is different from Manomaya and inner to Anamaya, and to Manomaya, and it's an Atma, which is called Vijnanamaya. So you have taken Vijnanamaya as the Atma, and now you have said that Manomaya is a Kosha. So Antara means which is interior to, Anyaha means which is different from. So this Vijnanamaya is both different from Manomaya and interior to Manomaya. Then Taspat, Etaspat, Manomayat. From this Manomaya, Eshaha Purnaha. Tene. Tena means by that. By what? By that Vijnanamaya. Manomaya Eshaha Purnaha. That Manomaya Kosha, we fill it with Vijnanamaya. We pour the Vijnanamaya Atma into the Manomaya Kosha, and therefore Vijnanamaya Atma now takes on the same shape as the Manomaya Kosha, which has the same shape as the Pranamaya Kosha, which has the same shape as the Annamaya Kosha. Annamaya Kosha is the one which has a shape. The other ones are derived shape, borrowed shape. Okay. So I have said that now I am the Atma. That is Vijnanamaya is me, the Atma. And therefore, Manomaya is now Anatma. It's a Kosha. Therefore, this is whenever you say that something is Anatma, remember that you are resolving that Anatma into its substratum, into its Adhishthanam. What is Adhishthanam for Manomaya over here? Vijnanamaya. So this resolution of Manomaya into Vijnanamaya, this destruction, this figurative destruction, remember it is through Jnanamano. There is no real destruction. And this we said there is a particular word for it. It is called Pravilapanam. Pravilapanam is the destruction of particular entity by understanding that it's mithya and therefore resolving it into the previous entity. Okay. So far, so good, right? This is Vyashti. But at every Vyashti stage, remember that you have to correspondingly do the same exercise for macro also. So having resolved the Manomaya into Vijnanamaya, we have to intellectually resolve Samashti Manomaya, the macro Manomaya, into the Samashti Vijnanamaya, into the macro Vijnanamaya. Now here Shankara writes that he says Manomayaha Vedatma Uktaha. He's saying this Manomaya Kosha has another name. Uktaha is called Veda Atma. Can you think why this Manomaya is being given the title of Vedatma?
In the previous Anuvaka,
Yeah.
said Tasya Yajureva Shiraha, Rig Dakshinah Pakshaha, and Samottarah Pakshaha.
Okay, so very good. So in the previous Anuvaka, we are given the various parts of the Manomaya. They are all the various Vedas only, right? Rig, Dakshina, Pakshaha, etc. The Vedas are taken as part of the Manomaya. Therefore, Shankara says you can also call it Veda Atma, consisting of Vedas only. Its essence is the Vedas. And then what? Because that Vijnanamaya has been poured into the Manomaya, Sava Eshaha, this Vijnanamaya also, Purusha Vida Eva, has the form of a human being only. Right? And therefore, this is what we said. Vijnanamaya also is Purusha Akara, has the same form. Right? And why is that so? I am Purusha Vidaha. Why does this Vijnanamaya Atma have the human form? Because Tasya Anu Purusha Vidata. Tasya, this Vijnanamaya Anu follows the form of the Manomaya, which is Purusha Vidaha, in the form of a human being's body. Right. Having done this, now we have to discuss those 5 factors. Remember that Vijnanamaya stands for knowledge. And knowledge is required for what? For doing karma. Right? Ichha Shakti. And then only you can do Kriya Shakti. So here, Manomaya stands for doubts, samshaya. And what destroys doubts? Knowledge. So Jnanam is more powerful because Jnanam destroys samshaya. We saw this. Sankalpa vikalpa atmika manaha. Nischaya atmika buddhihi vijnanamaya. Where did we see all this? I hope you remember.
Tatvabodha.
Tattva
Tattva.
Bodha.
Bodha. Therefore, tasya of that vijnanamaya, Shraddha eva shiraha. Shraddha is the head of that vijnanamaya. Those 5 parts are being described. तस्य विज्ञानमयस्य श्रद्धैव शिरः श्रद्धा एव शिरः श्रद्धा is the head, is the most important part of Vijnanamaya. Why so? Because Vijnanamaya is Jnana Shakti, knowledge principle. If you want to do something, if you want to become a karta, you have to have knowledge first. Therefore, the Jnata, the knower alone, can become a karta because every action has to be backed by knowledge. And therefore, janati ichhati yatate. Out of the knowledge that one has, janati, you have some knowledge, then ichhate, you choose a goal, and yatate, you work towards it. You do some action towards it. Therefore, what is being said is here, very important idea. The pramata alone has the capability of becoming the karta. And in the context of the Veda, where does the knowledge come from? From Veda alone. And therefore, what is the most important uh, quality needed for a person who is doing Vaidika karma? He has to have faith in the Veda. Spiritual knowledge requires the Shastram, right? And only if you believe the Shastram, you will believe that there is a particular fruit for your actions. For example, you say, Avahanti Homa you do, right? You get some money, you get wealth. Where does that knowledge come from? That knowledge comes only from Veda. Supposing you want to go to, Swarga in your next life. What is the homam you must do?
Nachiket.
Nachiketa homa. Right? So, you are working on the knowledge. What is the jnanam? Nachiketa homam will get me to Swarga. And having that knowledge, then ichhate. I will make a decision. I want to go to Swarga. I will wish to go to Swarga. Second point. After that, kriyate, etate. Then I will do the homam. And after my death, of the death of the physical body in this life, then I will go to Swarga. This is the process. Where does it start? Nachiketa Homam will take you to Swarga. Who gives the knowledge? Only Shastra. There is no experiential knowledge at all. Right? Nobody has, you don't know anybody who has done Nachiketa Homa and gone to Swarga. All you know is what Shastra tells you. Therefore, unless you have faith in the Shastra, you will not want to do that homework because you don't know where you don't have faith at all, right? How will you know that it takes you to Sarga? So you won't do it. And therefore, Shraddha is the most important quality over here for Shastrik Karma. Right? Okay. So therefore, the Upanishad says, Shraddhaeva Shiraha. Shraddha is what? Guru, Veda. What is the complete
Guru
Vakye,
definition?
Vedanta Vakye
Vakyeshu
Shraddha.
Vishwas.
Guru, Veda, Vakyeshu, Vishwasaha. Right? It is the faith in the words of the Shastra. And you have faith in the Guru that he is telling you what Shastra says. Therefore, any knowledge arising out of the Veda is dependent upon number one, faith in the validity of that pramana, of the Veda pramana. And number two, faith in your teacher that he is saying only what the Veda says. And therefore, no Vaidika karma will ever take place unless there is faith in Veda pramana. Therefore, all these are valid only for people who have a clear knowledge of Vaidika karma and its phalam, its fruits, and that knowledge comes only from Veda. And therefore, since Shraddha is a prerequisite, is the primary requisite for this, Shraddha is said to be the head of the Vijnanamaya Atma. Remember, Vijnanamaya Atma is the Karta. Right? Okay. So, what about worldly knowledge? What is pramanam for worldly knowledge?
Sense organs.
Sense organs. So, this is the correct approach we must all have completely assimilated. For any worldly knowledge, your pramanam is sense organs. For any alaukika knowledge not belonging to this world, believe in Shastram as pramanam. Right? So, that's the portion of the head. Why Shraddha is the head? Then Dakshinaha Pakshaha. So the right side is the understanding, the correct understanding. Rhythm is the correct understanding. And therefore, he is saying that the right side of this Vijnana Maya Kosha is to correctly understand the Vedic teachings. Shastric teachings has to be understood correctly, right? And this is not just for Shastric teachings. Even your worldly data has to be understood properly, correctly, right? For example, um, yeah, the sun rises. That is the report of your sense organs, right? What is the correct position? The sun neither rises nor sets, but the earth is rotating. Therefore, it is not just enough to have sense organs as the pramanam. But the correct interpretation of that pramanam through a person who knows, through a teacher, is necessary. Because if I have never gone to school, I would never have known that the earth is rotating. I would always think that sun rises and sets. But I went to school and the teacher told me that that is not correct. What you are seeing is sun rising and setting. What is actually happening is that there is the sun, earth rotating, and therefore it appears that the sun rises and sets. Therefore, not only data, gathering of data, which is through sense organs, the correct interpretation of data is necessary even for worldly things. And how much more so, gathering of data from Pramanam is also necessary. But more importantly, the interpretation of that pramana. What is saying rhythm. Rhythm is the correct understanding through the medium of a teacher is necessary. Through the medium of a acharya is necessary. Which is why we say don't read the Veda, because then you are using your sense organs to try to understand alaukika data. That data has to be interpreted properly by a person who is already exposed to the teacher. Okay. Then Satyam Uttara Paksha. Truthfulness, Satyam, Uttara Paksha is the left side. Okay. Now, here you have to understand that getting the knowledge alone is not useful. Okay. How do we, what is an example? I may know how to make a roti, but that knowledge is not going to quench my hunger. What do I need to do?
Need to
Make
make
the
it.
roti.
You need to make the roti. So that knowledge has to be converted into action. And that is why we say, Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. Knowledge of yogasanas is not good. Is not enough. I may know how to do a perfect headstand, but unless I practice, the knowledge does not benefit me at all. So knowledge is incomplete without practice. And therefore, Satyam here has to be understood not as truth, but as the practice of the rhythm. So that's why it comes straight after rhythm. Rhythm is correct understanding of Shastram through a teacher. Satyam is the implementation of that knowledge in your life. Is the practice of the Vedic teaching. And therefore, we can always say in Sanskrit, Rhythm yatha Shastra Jnanam, Satyam yatha Shastra Anushtanam. Rhythm is Jnanam, the knowledge of Shastram. Satyam is Anushtanam, the practice of that knowledge. So, therefore, you have to learn what the Shastra says from a teacher and then practice what has been learned. And Vijnanamaya Atmaha. This Vijnanamaya is called Vijnanatma. And this Atma is very important because Vijnanam Atma is the Karta. And all Vaidika karma requires the Karta. Karta requires Jnanam. And therefore, correct knowledge, rhythm is required. So the order is always Jnanam, knowledge, Ichha, the desire to do something, proceeding from that knowledge, and Karma, the actual implementation. And therefore, Vijnanamaya Atma is Karta Atma. What about Manomaya? If you say Vijnanamaya is Karta Atma, what is Manomaya? Manomaya is the Karana, the tool, the organ, right? And of course, we say that the Anandamaya is the Bhoktra Atma, the Bhokta Atma. Okay, let's go back to the Mulam. The next is Yoga Atma Maham Pucham Pratishtha. Yoga Atma Maham Pucham Pratishtha Tadapi Yesha Sloko Bhavati. So Yoga Atma. So here the word yoga takes the meaning of concentration. So there is a derivation Yog Samadhav, where Samadhav indicates concentration. So Yoga Atma. So here concentration is the central portion of Vijnanamaya. Right? We are talking about the parts, but not forget. Right? So Yoga Atma, the central portion of Vijnanamaya is concentration. And what is this concentration about? It's a focused lifestyle. A lifestyle which always has the final goal as your in front of you. Whatever you're doing, the final goal is what? Moksha. And this is what Krishna called this particular, keeping the final goal always in front of you in all your actions through life. Krishna gave it a wonderful
Vyavasayatmika.
Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi, right? Chapter 2. It is necessary to remember the final objective of your life always. Right. And that is the reason for the various rituals. Actually, so many rituals Shastra prescribes. It is basically to remind us constantly that you should never lose sight of your final destination, which is moksha. And this constant awareness, this is what is meant by Yoga Atma, the central portion of Vijnanamaya, the largest portion of Vijnana is the concentration, the awareness that I will never lose sight of my destination. So Shankara says in his commentary that yoga is equal to yukti, right? Yukti is equal to samadhana. He writes yoga yukti samadhana. Yoga is equal to yukti. Yukti is equal to samadhana. Yukti means joining. So yoga here is joining. What joining? Joining means samadhana. What is the definition of samadhanam in Tattvabodha?
Chitta ekagrata.
Chitta ekagrata.
Chitta ekagrata. So that is why I also gave it meaning of mental portion is concentration. Chitta ekagrata is concentration. And of course, there is a derivation, yog samadhav. Yoga is presented as concentration. And Shankara in his commentaries adds that if samadhanam is not present, which means if chitta ekagrata, the capacity to focus on one particular object is not present, object or idea is not present, then Shraddha will be weakened, Satyam will be weakened, and rhythm will be weakened. All the operations which Vijnanamaya is supposed to do, that will not happen properly. And therefore, this capacity to focus is the essential part of the Vijnanamaya Atma, and therefore called central portion, is known as yoga. Then Maha Pucham Pratishtha. So what is Maha? So Maha is, of course, again, the mantra doesn't say, you have to look at Shankara's commentary. He says Maha iti. Maha iti means Mahat Tattvam. What is Mahat Tattvam? Very
The
common word.
intellect.
Sorry?
The
Intellect.
Mahat Tattvam is never used in the Vyashti context. Right? So Mahatattvam is always used in Samashti context. And to drive that into our heads, Shankara says Maha iti Mahatattvam. That is to say Prathamajam. What is Prathamajam?
Hiranyagarbha.
The firstborn. The firstborn is
Firstborn.
Hiranyagarbha. Therefore Mahatattvam is the Samashti intellect. Hiranyagarbha. We should note that the word Mahat also appears in which text?
Patanjali Yoga Sutra.
Patanjali Yoga Sutras.
Yeah.
But Hiranyagarbha, it appears only in Veda. And that you equate both for the purpose of your. So, because Veda borrows from Sankhya a lot, therefore it uses the word Mahat. But essentially, whenever Mahat is mentioned, you have to automatically translate in your mind as Hiranyagarbha, the Mahat Tattva, Samashti intellect. Okay. Does Mahat, the word, ever appear in Veda is the question. Right? Because that question can come up. You said that Mahat is Hiranyagarbha. How do you know? I've just told you, none of you asked me. Why do you say Mahat is Hiranyagarbha? So we said Prathamajam, that is why we knew. Firstborn. Now, somebody can say, what is Shankara's basis for saying? Right? So there is a mantra in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Right? It says Mahat Yaksham Prathamajam Veda. You should know That Mahat is Prathamaja. Therefore, that is the Shruti Pramanam. Whenever we do Brihadaranyaka, we'll come across this. The 5th chapter, 4th section. So therefore, Mahaha means Samashti Vijnanamaya, which is nothing but Hiranyagarbha, which is nothing but Lord Brahmaji, Parishvara. And this Hiranyagarbha is what? Pucham Pratishtha. Pucham is the tail, so we have already explained all this, the lower part. Pratishtha is the support, because the tail supports the animals which have tails, right? Pucham Pratishtha, that Hiranyagarbha is the lower part supporting the Vijnanamaya art. So without the backing of Ishvara, so what is saying, when you say Hiranyagarbha is Vijnana, is Pucham Pratishtha, is support of Vijnanamaya Atma. You are saying without Ishvara, the Karta cannot function. Vijnanamaya cannot function. Not only that, no Indriya can function without Ishvara. Okay. So we will come across it very soon in the Bhagavad Gita class when we go to chapter 18. But those who have already done Bhagavad Gita once, you should know that chapter 18 talks about this also. That there is an adhishthanam without which nothing can function. Anybody remembers what is the mantra? I can start you off. Adhishthanam tatha karta. You guys are not even chanting, right? Adhishthanam tatha
Adhishtanam
karta.
prathakar karanam cha prithakvidam
Karanam cha pritagvidam.
vividhascha prithak cheshta daivam chaivatra panchamam.
Right? So every organ can function only when backed by the corresponding presiding deity, also called in Sanskrit called the Adhisthana Devata, presiding deity in English. And the totality of the Adhisthana Devatas is what? Hiranyagarbha. And therefore, Pratishtha. It is the very base, the substratum. Okay. The last line is as usual, Tadapi Shloko Bhavati. In this connection, there is a rig mantra now being presented. Right? For what? For Vijnanamaya Kosha. So this shloka will then talk about Vyashti, Shamashti, Aikya, Upasana. So Rituji, could you please chant out Anuvaka number 5 also?
जी ॐ विज्ञानै यज्ञं तनुते कर्माणि तनुतेऽपि च विज्ञानं देवाः सर्वे ब्रह्मज्येष्ठमुपासते विज्ञानं ब्रह्म चेद्वेद तस्माच्चेन्न प्रमाद्यति शरीरे पाप्मनो हित्वा सर्वान् कामान् समश्नुत इति तस्यैष एव शारीर आत्मा यः पूर्वस्य तस्माद्वा एतस्माद् विज्ञानमयात् अन्योन्तर आत्मानन्दमयः तेनैष पूर्णः स वा एष पुरुषविद एव तस्य पुरुषविदताम् अन्वयं पुरुषविदः तस्य प्रियमेव शिरः मोदो दक्षिणः पक्षः प्रमोद उत्तरः पक्षः आनन्द आत्मा ब्रह्मपुच्छं प्रतिष्ठा तदप्येष श्लोको भवति.
So the first word is Vijnanam. The next word is Yajnam. So if you're wondering why Tuji pronounced as Vijnai, this is because Anuswara is followed by a Y. And therefore you can pronounce it as Vijnanai Yajnam Tanute, or you can pronounce as Vijnanam Yajnam Tanute. But traditionally, Vijnanai is used. The correct tradition. But if you say Vijnanam Yajnam Tanute, nothing is wrong. But when you're chanting, you're supposed to use the traditional way, and therefore Vijnani Yajnam Tanute is better, right? This rule, you must know these rules, okay? I think we had a class somewhere on the website, there is a whole set of classes on pronunciation rules. So same rule appears when an Anuswara is followed by Lakara. Here what has happened, the Anuswara is what? The dot on top. The Vijnanam, the dot on top of na is Anuswara. It's followed by ya. And therefore, when it is followed by ya, the Anuswara converts into a ya. And therefore, Vijnanai Yakyam Tanate. Similarly, supposing it is followed by a la, what would happen?
It's a nasal L.
No. When Anuswara is followed by a la, Lakara, the Anuswara changes into a la. Therefore, you'll have a double la. So, Vijnanam is not a correct example, but it's have a double la. So, these, these rules of chanting, it's better to know so that these kind of doubts do not disturb us. If at all they disturb. If they don't disturb, then we are very lucky. Some people who think, and those people, they have poke holes into everything they see, which is good as mananam. And therefore, for them, understanding the rules of chanting is a good idea. I think there are some 2 or 3 classes by Tanmay on the website. Okay. So Vijnanam or Vijnani, Yajnam Tanute. Vijnanam here means what? The knowledge of the karma, how to perform the karma. So both Vaidika and Laukika karma. So don't translate as Vijnanam Yajnam Tanute literally. The literal translation becomes that knowledge, Vijnanam, Yajnam Tanute will perform the karma, which is incorrect. Right? So, and of course, Shankara being Shankara, he points it out and saying the Vachyartham is knowledge will perform the karma, which cannot be taken. Therefore, Shankara says you have to take the Lakshyartham. In the Lakshyartham, is all little mananam, okay? If you take Lakshyartham, if in Vachyartham, when you take, Vijnanam becomes knowledge. And therefore, Vijnanam Yajnam Tanute will become knowledge will perform the karma. And that is obviously incorrect, not logical. Therefore, Shankara says, don't take the Vachyartham, take the Lakshyartham. And he doesn't say what it means to take the Lakshyartham. In the Lakshyartham, therefore, Vijnanam is what?
The one having this knowledge,
The
the
one
person.
having the knowledge, the Jnata. Vijnanam is the Jnata, the one who has the knowledge. Therefore, if you take Vijnanam as the person who has the knowledge, then the Lakshyartham is correct. The person who has the knowledge, he performs the karma. Right? And remember that Yajnam Tanute can mean Vaidika karma, but there are some sub-commentators who say, sub-commentators who say that it can also mean, if you look at other words, karmani tanute apicha. He says that karmani can mean worldly karma also. So the final meaning is that vijnana, one with knowledge, tanute performs yajna, and tanute, he also performs karmani apicha, other actions, laukika karma also. So there are 2 sentences, right? Vijnanam, yajnam, tanute, and karmani tanute api. So vijnanam, yajnam, karute has to be taken as the one with Vaidika knowledge. The jnata performs Vaidika karma, and karmani tanute api, he also performs laukika karma, which means that he has the knowledge of that karma also. Karmani apicha, other actions like laukika. And therefore, this we should keep in mind when we have our discussion. Now, we also said a few other things, say a few other names which we gave, which we must remember, right? Annamaya is a Karya Atma. What does it mean?
Product.
Product. Similarly, Pranamaya is a Karya Atma. So Annamaya and Pranamaya, remember, are products, Karya Atma. Manomaya, I told you, is called Karana Atma, is the tool. Vijnanamaya is Karta Atma, is the doer. Anandamaya is Bhokta Atma. So these terms, let us remember, Anandamaya, Pranamaya, Karya Atma, Manomaya, Karana Atma, Vijnanamaya, Karta Atma, Anandamaya, Bhokta Atma. So here, as we saw, Shruti pointed out that this Vijnanamaya Atma is the Karta, which means Janati. He is he is the knower or he is capable of knowing. Ichhati, he is capable of choosing or wishing. And Karoti, Janati, Ichhati, Karoti. Karoti means he is capable of doing the action. And when you say Ichhati, is choosing. Whenever you say choosing, there is a choice, which means there has to be Viveka Buddhi. The Buddhi is the charioteer, right? The one who takes decisions, one who uh, takes all the data, thinks about the pros and cons, and makes a decision. That is why Buddhi is called the Buddhi tu Sarathim Viddhi. I hope you remember. Where did that come?
We also had that in Kathopanishad, the Ratha.
Is it Kathopanishad only?
Chariot example.
Okay. It's Kathopanishad only. Chariot example. And therefore, the Vijnanamaya Atma performs all the Shastric karma, right? But it also is relevant for normal karma also. And therefore, in the Shastric karma, the Vijnanamaya Atma is very important because the Vijnanamaya Atma, the Buddhi, has to have faith in the Shastra. Vaidika karma is relevant for me only if I have faith in the Shastram. Because only if I have faith in the Shastram, I will have faith in Adrishta Karma Phala. Right? Adrishta means what? Punyam and Papam. Punyam and Papam, which is the source for telling me that there is Punyam and Papam present? It is only the Veda. And therefore, unless I have Shraddha in the Veda, this Punyam Papam, Adrishta, has no relevance for me. If Adrishta has no relevance for me, Vaidika Karma is also not relevant for me. Therefore, if Shraddha is not there, then out of the four Purusharthas, the last two become irrelevant for me. I hope you understand. What are the four Purusharthas?
Dharmartha Kama Moksha. Artha and
Dharmartha Kama. Dharmartha Kama Moksha. In the Dharmartha Kama Moksha, we say for two reasons. One is it is easier to say Dharmartha Kama Moksha. And also another reason is that putting dharma in front, you are saying that artha and kama also have to be according to dharma. Right? But when correctly, outlining the four, you will say artha, kama, dharma, moksha. These are the four purusharthas, which is the sequence we gave in Tattva Bodha. Okay. So if Shraddha is not present, dharma becomes irrelevant for me. Because dharma is dependent upon punyam and papa. And if Shraddha and Shastram is not there, I don't believe in punyam and papam. Therefore, where is the question of doing anything for dharma's sake? Secondly, if I have no faith in Shastram, I don't believe in Ishvara, I don't believe in Brahman, I don't believe in Atma, I don't believe in Moksha. So where is the question of the fourth Purushartha, Therefore, if Shraddha is not there, it is not that Purusharthas are not relevant, but only the first two, Artha and Kama. Artha is what? Economic activity. Kama is desire-ridden activity. To become rich and to enjoy myself. That is what is left to me if I don't have Shraddha. And that's why here he says, the Karta also is necessary for Laukika Karma. Therefore, Vijnanamaya is both the Vaidika Karta and the Laukika Karta also. Both Kartas. You can be Vaidika Karta and have faith in Shraddha. And you can also be a Laukika Karta while having faith in Shastram. Because you will do Vaidika Karma for benefits available from Punyam and Papam. And you will do Laukika Karma for worldly benefits. So it is not that if you have Shraddha and Shastram, you can do only Vaidika. You can do both Vaidika and Laukika Karma. But if you don't have Shraddha and Shastram, then you can do only Laukika Karma. That's what's being said. Okay. Right. Now, Shankara in his commentary here adds that at the Samashti level, when Vijnanamaya Atma is to be talked about, you take it as Hiranyagarbha. He is just clarifying that ultimately Samashti Vijnanamaya is Hiranyagarbha. He adds in his commentary. Right. Then we go to the next line of the mantra, which is Vijnanam Devaha Sarve. Vijnanam Devaha Sarve Brahma Cheshtham Upasate. This is the next line of mantra. This is the after Karmani Tanute Apicha. So the third line of the mantra and the fourth line. Sarve Devaha. Vijnanam Devaha Sarve. Sarve Devaha. What do they do? Upasate Vijnanam. You have to bring the Vijnanam from the first sentence and pick up the Upasate from the second sentence. Bring it together to the first. So the whole sentence becomes Sarve Devaha Vijnanam Upasate. All the Devas, they meditate on Vijnanamaya. Vijnanamaya means Lord Brahmaji. Right? And therefore he adds Brahma Jeshtham. So it's a clarification for Vijnanamaya. Brahma Jeshtham means Hiranyagarbha, the eldest Brahman, or the Brahman who is the eldest. Hiranyagarbha is the eldest, first form. Therefore, even the Devas, they meditate upon Hiranyagarbha, upon the Samashti Vijnanamaya as Hiranyagarbha, the first form. Because Hiranyagarbha is Samashti Vijnanamaya. And here Shankara adds, just in case that you guys don't know what Devas are, Shankara says entities like Indra, etc. So he is saying that there are a lot of gods. One of them is Indra. Similarly, therefore Deva means the whole set of gods, beginning with Indra, etc. Okay. So what is the meditation process? They meditate upon the Vyashti Vijnanamaya as identical to Samashti Vijnanamaya. Okay. Now there's so far so good, right? But there can be an objection. We said that free will is available where?
Leena Manushya birth.
In Manushya birth. Which means what? Only a person who has free will can have a karta status. Correct. This discussion we have at lots of times. Only a human being can have a karta status. Everybody else, including the gods, can only be bhoktas. And doing upasana means what? It is karta only. Karta only does upasana. So what is the reconciliation?
How do devatas do upasanas?
Yeah, when he's
Because,
not a karta. He's not a karta.
yeah,
Okay, how can you
yeah,
do upasana?
yeah.
What can be the reconciliation? Right? So normally you don't find these things. Now there is a something called Shankara Bhashya on the Brahma Sutras. Okay. And there is a sub-commentary on the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, which is called Manmala Vakya. We don't need to, get upset with all these things. I'm simply pointing out a huge set of, literature available on our Shastras. If anybody really wants to know, this Vanamala Vakya is available in the Sringeri website. The author is somebody called Achyuta Krishnananda Tirtha. So Vanamala Vakya, commentary on Shankara Bhashya, which is a commentary on Vyasacharya's Brahma Sutra. And this sub-commentary is by Achyuta Krishnananda Tirtha. He says that Devas cannot perform upasana. Full stop. Therefore, any reference to the actions of a Deva has to be taken to the action of that Deva in his past life as a human being, where he has performed upasana, and because of a result of the punyam of the upasana, he has become a Deva. Have I confused you?
Can you please explain,
Yes.
Acharya?
Yes. How does he?
If I'm confused you, that's good.
The Deva's previous Manushya births karma.
Exactly. How does somebody become a Deva? Is the question.
Exalted Punyam.
Exalted punyam. But Deva is not, Deva is a role. All Devas are roles, even up to Hiranyagarbha also. Right? So if you have performed lot, and what is the pramanam for this? That Deva is a role. Which
Yamaraj
is the Yamaraj.
in
Okay, then
Kathopanishad.
Kathopanishad itself is a pramana. Because Yamaraj himself says that I did a lot of punyam and I became Yamaraj. That is the pramana. Therefore, any Deva has got the Deva body only because of Upasana. And that is why, and remember that once you become a Deva, you are only born as a Bhokta, right? But don't ask me what about all the actions taken by Devas in various Puranas. So those all we are not getting into. We are talking about what the scripture is saying here, that Devas cannot be Kartas. And therefore, this particular author, Krishnananda Tirtha, he says that wherever you find a reference to a action of a Deva, you have to take it as action of the Deva in his past life as a human being, where he had free will and he was a Karta. Okay. You're not convinced. But because Shastram says so, you have to accept it. What's the next one? Shankara defines Jeshtham also. Jeshtham is the firstborn, he says. Because this is Samashti Srishti and therefore Hiranyagarbha is the firstborn. Right? From the Vyashti viewpoint, from the micro viewpoint, remember that Vijnanamaya is taken as knowledge. Because any human activity requires first knowledge, then desire, then action. Jnana, Ichha, Kriya. Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti. But from Samashti angle, Jeshtham means Hiranyagarbha only, Samashti, Vijnanamaya. And then Vijnanam Brahma Upasate. So Shankara simply says Upasate has to be taken as Dhyayanti, which means all the Devatas they meditate upon that Hiranyagarbha. And Shruti here doesn't supply, as you can see, it doesn't supply the Upasana Phalam. So Shankara supplies, he says Tasmat. Tasmat means by that action of meditating on Hiranyagarbha, what happens? They get the Jnanam and the Aishwaryam. which are equivalent to that possessed by Hiranyagarbha. Jnanam we can understand. What is Aishwaryam?
Overlordship.
Overlordship. He becomes a ruler. That ruling capacity which is there in Hiranyagarbha as the ruler of the universe, and the knowledge which he has, because of which he creates the universe, that both of those things will be available to the devas who are meditating on Hiranyagarbha, which means what? They are all potential candidates for the next Hiranyagarbha, next Srishti Hiranyagarbha. So with this, we'll stop for today. We haven't completed the Anuvaka, but we'll do it in the next class. Any questions? Okay.
Acharya can we say that the devas are not kartas only, or the reverse is that because they have given up their kartutvam, that's why they have become devas?
No, that's not really what is meant. What is meant is the central teaching that only the free will, Ichha Shakti, not Ichha Shakti, the capacity to make choices is available only in human body. And therefore, when you go to another body, you don't get it. It's just incidental that is devatas over here, right? It's a better body, more enjoyment. But
Right.
you have lost the capacity to get moksha over there because that requires karta.
Okay. Thank you.
Raviji, if you could please repeat that Annamaya is the karta, Annamaya and Manomaya is the karta, Pranamaya is the karma. No.
Annamaya, Pranamaya are the karya, the products, karya atma. Manomaya is karanam, Vijnanamaya is karta, Anandamaya is both.
But we knew Annamaya as the Karana Sharira, but...
No, you don't know that. You cannot say Annamaya is Karana. Annamaya is physical body.
Okay. So Annamaya and Manomaya are the...
I think you should go back and take notes on this.
Yes.
You're getting a bit confused.
But how are they? No, they are the Karya. Correct. That makes sense.
Annamaya and Pranamaya are karya. Manomaya is the tool, the instrument. Vijnanamaya is the karta, and the bhokta is Annamaya.
So Karana and tool is the same as tool.
No, you are confusing between Karana and Karana.
Karana.
Karana is cause. Karanam is tool, instrument.
Right.
Sanskrit is one can make cause a lot of havoc. So I suggest you go back, listen to this, and if you have any questions, please do ask, and I'll reply in the group.
Yeah, I think this one needs a lot of mananam.
And ask the necessary questions, and I'll reply.
Thank you.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Meva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
Thank you,
patience.
Shivaya.
Om
Thank you.